And let's move on to another hot topic. With a few days to go until the November 5th election, more than 60 million of Americans have already cast their vote before the election, which national polls and surveys in swing states show is a close race between Republican Donald Trump and Democrat Kamala Harris. Both candidates have been working to win over the remaining sliver of undecided and independent voters in swing states while turning out their prospective-based supporters to vote early or show up at ballot stations. What will be the outcome of this race that people are traditionally following not only in the US itself? Is American society truly divided in half? And who makes up these halves? Balzhan Samigulina spoke with experts and gathered their insights.
On November 5th, America will choose its 47th president in a race that has surpassed expectations. Experts noted a deep divide in American society, but the makeup of the parties has been changing. According to Pew Research Center, 44% of Democratic voters now identify as Black, Asian, Latino, or from other racial backgrounds, while 45% hold a college degree and 47% do not identify as Christians. Professor Robert Shapiro from Columbia University confirmed these changes, outlining shifts in American politics.
What's happened recently as well, and has made the Republican Party even more competitive and has led to close elections, the Republicans have been doing better, Trump in particular, among minority voters. He hasn't been getting an enormous support from minority voters, but Democrats have typically gotten 90% of the Black vote or more, and he's reduced that by a few percentage points, and enough to make a difference in particular states, and especially also among Latinos, where the Democrats really need to get about 70% of the Latino vote in order to do well. And he's been doing better, and has been cutting that down to 60% or even lower.
Earlier, former President Donald Trump spoke to supporters at Madison Square Garden, making his case against Democratic candidate Kamala Harris, despite New York's Republican drought since 1984. The Republican candidate vowed to tackle immigration, curb inflation, and urge attendees to vote early. Addressing around estimated 20,000 supporters, he criticized Harris, claiming her policies, he said, have weakened the country.
Next Tuesday, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've done a terrible job.
Comedian Tony Hinchcliffe made controversial remarks, joking that Latinas love making babies and calling Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. These comments drew backlash from Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris, Puerto Rican celebrities, and congressional Republicans. Experts said such statements could hurt Republican support, particularly among Puerto Rican voters in key states. While Trump had been gaining ground with Latino voters, these remarks may dampen his appeal. Notably, despite raising a record $56 million for Democrats campaign, Republicans currently lead in each of the swing states. With around 240 million eligible voters this election, swing states are likely to decide the next president.
As we can talk about, Trump leading by maybe as much as 1 percentage point on average in the key 7 battleground states, but that's 1 percentage point, and we need to take into account sampling error, other errors associated with doing surveys, and especially errors associated with estimating exactly who's going to vote in the election. So the common wisdom about the current election is that the election really is too close to call. We're talking about one candidate or the other having a probability of winning of a little bit more than 50% at most.
Former President Barack Obama, Bruce Springsteen, and John Legend railed in Philadelphia to support Harris and warned of the implications of another Trump term for American working-class values. The Observer said the event held a festival atmosphere, attracting nearly 10,000 enthusiastic fans. However, experts suppose Harris' stance on the Gaza conflict could sway voters toward Trump. The Arab and Muslim vote has become increasingly influential, especially in key swing states where even slight shift in turnout can impact results. This election, the community is more united than ever over Israel's actions in Gaza, and any candidate seeking support will need to address calls for an end to the conflict. Harris began her campaign focusing on this issue.
We can and we must seize this opportunity to end this war and bring the hostages home. And I will do everything in my power to meet that end.
Harris announced new policy proposals targeting Black Americans, including forgivable small business loans and the National Health Equity Initiative. The Democrat campaign, along with former President Barack Obama, is worried about whether black men will turn out on November 5th as they have in past elections. The share of eligible black voters has increased significantly since the last election, enhancing their electoral power.
The Democrats are going to win the overwhelming proportion of black voters. The question is it going to be 90% or better, which they've usually gotten, or will it be closer to 85%, which can have a decisive effect in particular states where there are large black populations, such as some of the southern states, North Carolina and Georgia, but also blacks living in major cities in the United States, in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So those kinds of things. That's something that really is of significant concern to the Democrats, and the Harris campaign has been trying hard to hold and persuade black voters.
The campaign events are part of the candidates' final push in a tight race. Analysts said American society was nearly evenly divided, and the outcome would hinge on voters' preferences in foreign and domestic policy. Relations with Central Asia, they noted, would pay on personal diplomacy, an area where Democrats were generally more engaged than Republicans. Baljan Samigulina, New Time.